So I would just like to present a small context first of all. I just read Life Comes from Life, and I was also thinking about different angles of how maybe the atheist people think, or these industrial leaders who are also like Elon Musk, who say that there is no God, in fact, by material advancement, we can defeat death and so on. So I was just thinking how these people sometimes think. So I came to two ideas or two angles of perspective. Number one is that they create all of their things. For example, if you create a car, or just like Elon Musk, he creates a Tesla, or let's say some other person, he creates a house, or some other person, he builds Burj Khalifa. Now, after creating all of these things, they take the credit. But the basic fundamental principle of what they're building, or people can also say the creative element, is matter. So matter they have not created. So this is the first concept I would like to discuss in this particular first few verses. So if you can read, it's in the starting I highlighted something. So who creates matter? Can matter be created in a lab? So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, all of these are Krishna's separated material energy. So Bhumir, Appo, Nalavayu, Kamano, Buddhi, Revacha. Similarly, in 10.8 also Krishna says that I am the source of both the spiritual and material worlds. Similarly, in the next verse, Ishopanishad 1, just as Prabhu also quoted before, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. So entirely, both the spiritual and material worlds are the properties of the Lord. So from this, we can understand that all matter has come from Krishna alone. So now, as devotees, we can accept this because devotees are reading Prabhupada books, and then they know that yes, Krishna is the ultimate father and he is the supreme friend, and he is the one who's providing everything for all the living entities. But if we show these verses to the atheist class of men, if they're really smart and logical, they will accept it. But mostly they're fools, and many of them are miscreants, Duskritina. From their perspective, they just say, or any scientific journal, if one goes to read, they say it's called chance. They say that something happens, we do not know, maybe Big Bang, maybe not. Now they're doubting that also. But something happened and suddenly tree came, suddenly all the material elements came. So it is simply because of chance. But this chance is actually a very, very, very ignorant term, because Prabhupada often says chance means they're just covering up. They do not know what really is the origin of creation, but they just say chance just so that they can create, like cover it up. But let's say for chance, and then let's take their example. So chance, for example, if we are rolling a die, like for example in India we play like Sudoku or Ludo or whatever. So when we are rolling a die, we see that we cannot predict exactly. So one time six might come, one time number two might come, or one time number one might come. So chance means randomness. So that point we can understand. And what is randomness? Randomness means unorderly or unfixed outcomes. So that means that if I'm flipping a die every time, unless I get very lucky, generally speaking, for this example, we cannot expect a certain range of values to come every time over and over and over again. That is called chance. By their conclusion, they are trying to mean that by chance everything happens, but we see that there is particular structure or order in society. For example, human beings have two hands, two legs. Similarly, dogs have four legs, and dogs are shaped away. Dogs' digestive system is different in length. Human digestive system is shorter in length for occupying the vegetarian kind of dietary sustenance. Similarly, we never see some half man, half snake, or half baby, half man. So there is no question of randomness. So in fact, it is very fixed and it is very particular that all of us are built the same way. All animals are also built the same way. Even if one is a little bit maybe handicapped or something, he also has some certain rules and medical rules and regulations based on which they can be classified under. And we can also see that law of gravity is always the same. Whether I go to maybe if I drop a baby from third floor, or if I myself jump from the third floor, both of us die. It's not that the baby's innocence is suddenly chance changes and the baby survives like Superman. So these are actually very much illogical terms that come from brainwashing. So this exact quotation, or this, if you can say, I put equal to all of this. This actually Tathil Prabhu very nicely explained in his Bhagavad Gita 10.8, verse 10.8 lecture. So those who are interested can watch it. I have linked it below as well. So now Prabhupada's quotes authoritative Shastra on this matter. Nothing takes place by chance. That is sound reasoning. Chance means ignorant. One who does not know, he says chance. That is ignorance. That is not knowledge. So this Bhagavad Gita 16.8 lecture in 1975. So again, same point. Whenever there's perfect law and order, that everything is happening systematically and everything is policed systematically. For example, in society, the constitution creates a law. And similarly, the policemen, they work under the law to maintain the society. But for example, in let's say Saudi Arabia, they maintain the laws very strictly and they police the laws very strictly. So this means that the law and the lawmaker, they're all working very nicely to see that everything happens systematically and organized way. But in India, sometimes if you wear a helmet and then you go in street, they will catch you. If you don't wear a helmet, they will leave you. So this is called not proper policing of the law. So we see that there are particular laws. Even any physicist can agree that there is gravitational law, there's Bernoulli principle, so on and so forth. So the law is there, that's a fact. And there's also perfect policing of the law. For example, in India, if you do some nonsense and bribe them, you can go away. So that means they're not policing the system properly. But in Krishna's law, you cannot break the law. There is law of karma, or for materialist people, for them to understand better, law of gravity is oftentimes quoted by Prabhupada, and even various other fluid mechanics. In fluids, there are various different formulas as well. So they're based on certain assumptions that these laws will work every time. So we can see that not only the laws are there, but the policing or the systematic function of the laws are also maintained very stringently by Krishna's energy. So now, as devotees, we can understand that Sarva Karana Karana means that the cause of all causes is Krishna, and he is the one who's doing all of this. So all of this is working under Krishna's energy. That can also be quoted in 9.10, where Krishna says that Maya Dakshena Prakriti Shuyate Characharam. So that means that this material energy, this material nature is working under Krishna's energy. So this is also a fact. So now we are quoting all these things, and the materialist sees his chance, but he cannot prove, because science means theory and practice. Now, if he has some theory, but he cannot prove it practically or without any reason, that means that if he is sincere, he should accept our shastras and our conclusions. Not blindly, he can take all of our books and he can read it. So this is one of the angles I wanted to approach. Now, the second angle is that this is very, very misquoted, actually. All these scientists, all of them, the basis of their understanding, especially in biochemistry or physics or even general chemistry, even the religious so-called teachers in university, even they say that life comes from matter. In fact, one of the most founding books of modern physics, that whole book just has one thing, that life comes from matter. But this is nonsense. Okay, right now, Sami Prabhu says, but fossils prove evolution. So this is another very nice stupid theory posed by the atheists. Back in the time, when Brahminical culture was valid, first class men, they were not buried. Like in the Mleccha days, right now they're buried. Okay, no problem. They'll find, no problem. But back in those times, they were not buried. They were in fact burned to cut out the bodily attachment. And second point is, these people, they cannot say that they've dug all the earth. So they cannot say that. They might go to some Sahara desert, find some small bone and say this or this. But unless you've gone through all the 100% earth land surface area, how they can come to a proper conclusion? It's like saying, I will study 1 + 1 = 2 and write a calculus examination. What is my chance of success? Answer is 0%. Second point is that this I really like when Prabhupada quoted. Of course, I did not put it here because it suddenly came. Prabhu suddenly, he representing the asking this question. But second point is that those who come from advanced societies, who are properly following the Vedic system, the Varnashram system, their bodies are burnt. So therefore, there is no question of finding some kind of bones or whatever. And second point is that they cannot circle all over the earth, and they have not even 1 to 2% they haven't excavated, and suddenly they want to talk as if they have complete perfect knowledge. Now, second point is life comes from life. So this is, of course, I got distracted, so I'm sorry for that, Prabhus. But second point is that this life comes from life is what Prabhupada has told us, and it's what shastrically evident, and it's fact. But all the modern day scientists, all of them, they say life comes from matter. So for example, let's read this one quote. Okay, for example, just like the insistence of the scientists that life is a production of matter, they have no experience. Neither they can make any experiment in the laboratory that from matter one can produce life. But every child knows that my father is life and my mother is life. So I am produced from that combination. I am also life. So life comes from life. The dead body of father and the dead body of mother cannot produce. Any man can understand. Very simple. But these rascals, so-called scientists, they're insisting that life is produced from matter. Insisting simply. Their only idea is to prove that there is no God, imitation. So again, it's very basic knowledge that I've come from my father and mother's physical, intimate intercourse or whatever. And similarly, the dog also, he comes from his father and mother. But never the scientist can prove that from a rock or from maybe some concrete, suddenly a man comes out. This they can never prove. So this is very simply and very logically said. But again, the second quote which I linked, I was also thinking how the atheists might refute this quote. So sometimes the atheists say, but actually, when there's a combination between man and women, there is a exchange of chemicals via the semen. So they can say still chemical, right? Chemical is matter, and therefore from matter life comes. But again, it shows how they cannot think beyond step one. They cannot pause for a moment and even think for 5 seconds before they say anything out. So we'll see what Prabhupada very nicely quotes for these people. Recently, there is a book, Chemical Evolution. He wants to prove it, that by combination of chemicals, the life has come in. That is not the fact. The fact is life has come from life. You cannot manufacture life by combination of chemical. Chemical comes from life. In our book, what is that book? Life comes from life. I have given this reason that even though you think that chemical combination brings the living force, but the chemical is coming from life. Just like citric acid. The citric acid we see practically, there is a tree, lemon tree. This is life. The lemon tree is life. Jalaja Nava Lakshani Thavaraha. They are stavara, life, non-moving life. But it is life. So from an insignificant lemon tree, tons of citric acid is coming. You have got experience. This lemon tree means citric acid. This chemical is coming from life. Without the tree, you cannot get this chemical, which is citric acid. From sometimes you have got experience, the perspiration, water is coming from my body. The body is active so long I am there. So how you can say that chemical is coming from matter? No, chemical is coming from life. Even if you accept that life is combination of chemicals, then chemical also is coming from life. So the point is that even from this perspective, if you see, the chemicals are also originating from life. Just like, for example, from a tree, as long as the tree is living, we can get nice, fresh lemon with citric acid, which can give nice lemon juice, which can be offered to the Lord. But the moment you cut down the tree and within a few days, the tree loses its power, from that time onwards, you cannot find any lemon. And even if you find some dead lemon which has been rotting, you cannot find some fresh lemon juice, some proper chemical in it. So even from either perspective, they're coming wrong. So the point here is that once the soul has entered the particular material body according to his desires in his previous life and according to sanction from Krishna, only after the soul has entered, chemicals come. That means from life comes matter, not from matter comes life, from life comes matter. For example, as long as a person is living, he can produce various chemicals like testosterone, or he can sometimes produce dopamine in his brain, or he can produce, if he's very scared, he can produce some adrenaline. All of these things come as long as the soul is in the body. But the moment the soul leaves the body, if you try to scare the dead body, or if you try to give pleasure to the dead body, you will not find that dopamine is coming in his brain or any adrenaline being produced. So the overall point is that from life comes matter. So this can be understood via the second quote. So I would just like to conclude by this very interesting verse also, which I really was liking, that in this material world, so-called scientists, philosophers, and economics are nothing but cheaters in one way or another. The scientists are cheaters because they present so many bogus things in the name of science. So just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also says that this whole material world is just a combination between the cheater and the cheated. So now here, for those who are very philosophically inclined, smart, and those who have some sukriti, piety, here's a science where they can get in contact with the bona fide spiritual master and get the perfect transcendental knowledge directly from the parampara system. And if they're smart, they will take the Bhagavad Gita, they will come in the association of the devotees, and they can make their life perfect. Otherwise, as Krishna says, they will go down and down into the more deeper bad conditions of life, and the demoniac living species will be inhabited by their souls. So references number 1, life comes from life, has been linked. So reference number 2 was Tattva Prabhu's lecture on Bhagavad Gita 10.8. So I've particularly linked from 2 hours 5 minutes 40 seconds to 2 hours 30 minutes. Tattva Prabhu very nicely explains, like, for example, if there's someone atheist in front of him, how Prabhu will interact. So it was just like that. So whenever you're free, I would request all the devotees to kindly watch to this as well. It gives a very nice explanation and how we can deal with such people in a very logical, in a very systematic and efficient way. So yes, that is it for my small presentation. If there's any feedback, please let me know, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Very well. Good. Very good. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Anybody want to ask him a question based on the presentation? You can go ahead. Karthik Prabhu will answer your questions. Nobody want. Aditya, yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhupada Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. So my question was that Karthi Prabhu had mentioned in his presentation that atheists they will not accept that life comes from life, that life comes from matter. But so they can also counter argue saying that even in the case of reproduction, what eventually ends up happening is that there's a discharge of all the activities that go on is also a material reaction, right? So how do we prove them that there is a spiritual word or a spiritual aspect to this? Yes, Prabhu, that's my question.
Right. So the atheists say that from sexual intercourse, I'm sorry to say all these words, but from such intercourse, there's a chemical interaction and therefore the child is formed. That's what your question is, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
But the point is that once the soul leaves the body, the ability of the body to form such vital substances for reproduction or for even general maintenance of the body is absent. For example, just like a dog, as long as it's living, it can give some 10 kids or 20 kids or 30 kids. But the moment it dies and the decomposition period starts within 1 week or 2 weeks, there is no question of these chemical substances produced due to the Achintya Shakti or the inconceivable potency that is naturally present in the body of that particular living entity due to the presence of the soul. So just like a dead dog cannot reproduce, but a living dog can reproduce. So the living dog can reproduce because it has got some level of inconceivable potency. Therefore, it can give out certain substances like semen, adrenaline, and various other hormones, so on and so forth. So this is to be understood by them. So what is the difference? Whenever we are speaking to atheists, they must first come to the point. What is the difference between a dead and a living body? This is the entire basis. They don't need to accept God. I used to make this mistake when I was preaching to some of my friends. I say, Krishna, yes, he's Supreme Personality. But the point is that they've been so conditioned to not accept authority that they cannot even accept these things. First, let them come to the level of understanding the soul. Then, if they come to the level of understanding nature or how nature works, and even if they come to the conclusion, yes, nature is a superior power, then slowly they can come to a higher conclusion. Then slowly, after many millions of births, if they are very offensive, or slowly after time in this birth itself by the association of advanced devotees, like our senior devotee, like Tatit Prabhu or Nimanitai Prabhu or Prahlad Prabhu, and after speaking with them, then they can come to the right conclusion that yes, just like I have a soul, there's supreme soul, and the supreme soul is Krishna. So that is a little bit away from your topic. But the primary thing is that as long as the soul is not in the body cannot produce any energetic manifestations, or the body cannot produce children. Neither can the body produce any other kind of chemicals that you say are scientifically researched. So I hope those questions are answered, Prabhu.
Can I have one short follow-up, Prabhu?
You're trying to cook me, huh? I'm
No,
joking.
no.
You can ask.
You had mentioned about inconceivable potency in your answer, right, Prabhu? So
Yes,
when
yes.
you say inconceivable potency, there is what is an opening for hypotheses, right? Many people can speculate a lot of things, a lot of speculation. Why would they surrender to Srila Prabhupada's authority? Because they can speculate, they can try to understand this inconceivable potency in their own way. Because there are many different cults trying to understand that also, right? Because some people say, oh, Amritandamai created this, or Amma's this thing. So there's a lot of room for speculation also, right?
Okay. I will like split your question into two answers. Number one, if you're dealing with hardcore atheists, that is one section. Second section, those who want to take this particular concept from this Veda and then speculate on it like Vivekananda, or if they're a little bit more pious, do Jnana Yoga. If they're a little bit more pious, normal yoga, Hatha Yoga system, so on and so forth. First part of the question. Now, for the atheists, see, for the atheist, we should never quote Shastra in the start, Why he's going to believe Shastra? He's a Sarvadharma. Why he has to surrender? His whole point is that he has to be independent. So unless he's completely intelligent, his intelligence is pacified, his logical understanding is pacified, he cannot be quoting Shastra. So from a very rudimentary point of view, to prove Achintya Shakti, we can say this. For example, my nails grow every day, maybe by a millimeter or 0.1 millimeter. Similarly, my hair, it also grows on a day-to-day basis. Very, very, very small, minute changes, it grows. Third thing is that when a mother, she gives birth to a child, at that particular moment, automatically there is milk that is filled in the breast for the feeding of the child. So these are practical day-to-day examples to show that Achintya Shakti exists in an individual soul. So first point, again, you get them to believe the soul, then you show them the characteristics of the soul. So these all things are characteristics of the soul. And if we have the ability to have such inconceivable potency that suddenly a dog comes and suddenly from a very tired, depressed state, I can get so much energy to run 10 kilometers, or a mother who just gave birth to a child suddenly has the ability to produce milk, or my nails are growing so inconceivably every day in and day out. So these inconceivable potencies are existing with us also. Therefore, first checkbox ticks, like you tick it. Then automatically, slowly, as they get more pious, you can also say that Krishna also has his own inconceivable potency. Just like we can get one drop of sweat, but for Krishna, sweat means the entire ocean. So this is the characteristic. Second point is that when you're dealing with these brainwashed people, better not to directly attack them, or better not to directly focus on defeating their guru. Or for example, if you see any Sai Baba follower, okay, for example, I met my dad. Not met my dad. I always, I mean, like I was dealing with my dad, and then he is Sai Baba follower. So in the start, out of so much pride, I was telling him, who this Sai Baba guy, eating meat, why you named me after him? And I was like doing so much nonsense. So in that state, he never did anything Krishna conscious. Nothing he did. Even though I was so-called chanting, so-called reading, but ultimately that so-called preaching led to him not accepting the path given by Prabhupada. So that is not the way we go through. But you see, even these Sai Baba people, they do a lot of charity, they do a lot of sometimes austerities also they do. All these principles they've taken from Vedas and concocted it. So for these kind of people who are following Kaitava Dharma, better not directly attack their hashtag gurus, but slowly, very slowly, give them Prabhupada. Because if you go to these Amma people, as long as they're not Vivekananda people who are like extremely offensive, if you go to these Amma people or Sai Baba people, and you little bit as a nice person, you give them the Bhagavad Gita, they will accept it. Even if you go for donations, these Sai Baba people or these Gujaratis who follow some other leader, they will donate nicely. So it is better to focus on, instead of arguing with them, it is better to try to get them purified by giving them some prasadam, some books, and maybe ask them to come chanting. Slowly get them to the point where their attachment to Prabhupada rises and their attachment to their bogus guru, which has been lifelong, reduces. And at that point, we can present the philosophy as it is with full strength. Because in the starting stages, they cannot digest it. So this is what I'm trying to say. And if they're very fanatical, best is to avoid them, because oftentimes we create offenses by preaching to them. Because the ninth offense is that one should not preach to those who are faithless. And what happens is that if you preach to those who are faithless and you push the limit a little bit and they create more offenses, you get in part of those offenses as well, because you're acting as a mechanism for them to create more offenses. So better just say Hare Krishna. If possible, give them a book. If not, just walk away. There are better people to preach to. So this is this is my little bit. Yeah.
Understood, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your answer. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Karthi Prabhu ki jai.
Prabhu, whatever you're saying only I'm repeating,
Jai.
Prabhu. Or whatever conversations you say in the car, I will just store it in my brain and then just reproduce. So nothing on my own, Prabhu. I have to thank you only for all the extra.
Presenting in a very, like convincing way. Good, very good. So yeah, but you see, mostly about the atheistic people, like as Karthi Prabhu said, I'm just putting another word. Let's classify them into two category. One is some sensible atheist, one is nonsensical atheist. Nonsensical atheists, don't waste too much of your time, just walk away. If possible, you have some prasadam, give them some prasadam. And if they like Kirtan, you just make them hear some music, Hare Krishna mantra music. I think you don't have to waste much time with them. A sensible atheist means someone who is ready for logic. Again, as Karthi Prabhu say, don't talk about Krishna, Vedas and all. Just give the philosophy. No, that's it. Yeah. Then, Krishna or later, because you see, like, even if they want to become jnani, that's okay, Even if they want to become yogi, that's also okay. Because, like, of course, there is foolish, no doubt about that, but we were also foolish in some life. So they will go to yogi or jnani, whatever, then they will come to next level of Krishna consciousness, some other life. So you should not confuse them too much. So step by step, you just take them out. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. It was a nice presentation. It was nice question answer as well.